What I usually do, and this is just a matter of personal preference, I just enjoy producing a little bit more when there's more going on in the back. And for me personally, it's a lot of fun to create these low volume textures in the back to have a little bit of ear candy. Before I go to all my other elements, I like to do that, so when I produce, I can hear these sounds and everything sounds a little bit more organic, which causes me to have more fun when I'm producing. So let's create an audio track. I like to have this at the very top. I don't know why. You can do it whichever way you like. And let's start with a little bit of vinyl crackling. It's very typical for the genre because we don't use analog gear anymore. Everything is sampled, everything is digital. But if you still want to get that feel back, just throw a sample of vinyl crackling on it, and it's going to make your track sound a little bit more sophisticated, in my opinion. So you can already hear the grit and the noise in the sample, which makes it sound really rich. And one good thing about this is that we can also use it to create a little bit of movement and a little bit of rhythm. First, let's get rid of the fades on the sample. Turn off the MIDI again. And now if we press F, it's not going to play the note F, but we can adjust the fades on the samples. And this is another thing that you hear in tech house a lot, is you have a lot of different sub-rhythms in your track. It's not just your drums, it's also a little bit of atmosphere in the back, a little bit of crackling, a lot of different sounds that all create movement that gonna make your track sound and feel sophisticated and professional. And the way we do this is, I just loop this every 4 beats. I highlight 4 beats, then I go to Command D, which is duplicate, which is the most important shortcut that you use all the time because you just duplicate stuff. Let's get rid of the fades again. Oops. Command Z, also very important, just undo. And duplicate this. Bring down the volume. And now you can already hear that it has a little bit of movement. The first 2 beats you have more crackling, and then in the second part you can hear it less, but it creates sort of a rhythm. Now this is way too loud. Let's bring down the volume. So it's just in the back. But still giving it some movement. Let's create a group. This is just our texture group. Now, what else can we do? We can also do the same thing by using a loop and just low passing it. I do that sometimes to create more movement. Now we just have a little bit of noise. Okay, so how can we achieve this? If you have a sample pack, there's going to be some loops in there, and if you don't want to just throw the loop on there, you want to make it a bit of your own, we can use this for the texture. So let's drop in this loop, bring down the volume, have a listen. Still creating these fades. I think there's a way you can turn this off. Let's go to Preferences. Create fades on clip edges. Let's turn this off. So this shouldn't happen anymore. So we got this nice rhythm, and let's just process it a little bit. Throw in some distortion. You can be creative. There's just sometimes random things that I throw on there and just see what happens. Sometimes you have a happy accident, and I found vinyl distortion sometimes to have a very nice feel to it. So let's just put it on there. Another way of shaping the loop is to change the transients of the individual samples that are in it. And this is also something that I use if I feel like the heads are a little bit too long and I just want a little bit of movement. I just like the transients. I can go over here, make sure beats is turned on. And now what it does is it has analyzed the loop, and every time there's a sample played, there's a little arrow up here. And this is all the transients. If we tell it to preserve these transients, we can bring down the rest of the signal. We change the mode to the uppermost arrow and bring down the percentage. And now we just have the transients. We've changed up the loop, but it still gives us some movement. You can hear a little bit of swing in there. That's not too bad. We want it to be alive. So let's duplicate this. And now, because I just want this to be very subtle, let's filter out some of the higher frequencies. Turn on the low pass filter on the EQ8, bring down the frequency. And now bring down the volume. So it's just lying underneath everything else. What else? Now you can be very creative with these things. Sometimes I like to throw in an atmosphere sample, maybe of a crowd talking. If you want to have a little bit of a party feeling on the dance floor, it tends to work really well. It somehow makes the whole room feel a little bit more alive when underneath the track there's a little bit of talking or people cheering. You can do your own though. You can use nature sounds or whatever suits your track. Maybe if your track is a little bit more serious, maybe use some industrial sounds, maybe some echo, reverby sounds from a warehouse or something like that. You can do whichever you like. I like to add a little bit of atmosphere for the kick in this track. So we go back to our folder. This is what I mean by industrial reverby sounds. You can already hear how it creates this more sinister kind of vibe. And I love the dark, so we can use this just to give the kick a little bit of tonality, because the sounds in here do have a pitch. And it will also give the whole track some wideness and some character. And also, if we loop this in a certain increment, it's also going to give it some rhythm. So I bring down the fades, duplicate this. And bring this down by a lot. And now we have some texture underneath our kick. And it's much more fun to produce this way.